Welcome to another episode of the Wandering Watercolor. Today we're painting the second page of the Fairy Tales and Legends watercolor coloring book, and let's get started. So this is the second page, and this is what we're aiming to paint. It should be a pretty straightforward one. There's not a large color variation in it. And as always, I recommend having a rag, scrap piece of paper, and a dish to mix your colors on. It can be as simple as just a plate, like a porcelain plate or a glass plate. Anything really works as long as you can, as long as it's a very smooth surface and the colors are easily cleaned off of it. And always have a jar or a cup of water. This is mine on the side here. And if you have one of the brushes, like sometimes in my kits, I'll sell these little brushes, which are like portable brushes. You can also use that. It's same thing, not a problem. Okay, so the very first thing that we want to do is we'll focus on the main part of the suit. This is an elf. It's like a battle elf. We'll go ahead and we will just go ahead and put some water on the green. And actually I like putting water on all of my colors before I start, because it helps just get the pigment off easier once they're nice and moist. You don't have to do that. I prefer doing that just because it makes things quicker and easier. It's up to you. Alright, so go ahead and we'll grab a bunch of the green. I adjusted the lighting a little bit. Hopefully it's not as much of a glare as the last video. But we'll just get a bunch of the green, and it's just straight green. Like, we don't even need to mix this with anything. And we're just going to put a bit of water so it's not as opaque. Let me test it over here a little bit. That looks pretty good. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and just lay it right in. When I designed this one, I was thinking like a forest elf. Obviously a bit inspired by Zelda. I am a huge Zelda fan, so that's a little bit of the style, I guess, and the look. But yeah, just a forest elf. Therefore, a lot of green in the uniform. So go ahead and put a flat wash. Don't worry about doing any textures or shadows. Just doing a flat wash of the green throughout the body. These little things over here are little like throwing knives. They're a different color, so we'll just avoid them. If you get a little bit in there, not a big deal, no worries. Okay, right there. And also here in the arms. And here. Okay, so we're good with that. Rinse off our brush. I'm gonna let that dry. And while that is drying, we will go ahead and move on over to the leather guards on the arms and the lower legs. And let's see. So it's basically we're just getting brown straight from the palette, and we're just gonna dilute it with a bunch of water. Same thing. I'm just gonna go ahead and lay it in. Don't worry about it if it mixes a little bit. It's not too big of a deal. Go right in. So that's good. Get some more. And this is, again, just a flat wash to kind of block in the color. We'll add more shadows on top of it later on. Now we're just trying to kind of get a feel and differentiate the different parts with different colors. So the little pouch here is also going to be brown. Same with this pouch. And the belt, it's kind of running across here. and also this little part, it's like a clip onto the uniform. And also the little throwing knives, they have little leather pockets here. I'll just throw that in there. You can get a little more brown, ran out over here. And then the brown on the gloves, the leather gloves. Oh, too much water. Gloves, they're kind of like half gloves, half gauntlets. Okay. And then same here on the other arm. And then also the strap that's holding the shoulder armor. And around here, soaked into the other shoulder. I'm gonna dry off my brush a little bit. If you ever end up putting excess paint anywhere, you can always just dry off your brush and then go back in and pick it up. It's a very useful tip. So we're gonna rinse off our brush. Okay. That's coming together rather quickly. Was not expecting that. We'll go ahead and we'll grab some of the yellow right here. I'm gonna grab a little bit of the yellow ochre. If you don't have this color, whatever palette you're using, just mix in a little bit of brown. You can also always put in a little bit of green to kind of neutralize it, so it's not as bright. So brown and green and yellow should give you something approximating this color right here. And then also just experiment with the different ratios. And you also don't actually have to paint it exactly as I do. This is just a bit of a baseline for people to go off of. So yeah, don't feel like you have to do it exactly as I do. Okay, so this is the hair color. We're just gonna dilute it. We're looking for something like that. Yeah, that looks good. And again, just a flat wash, blocking in the color. That's it. We're not doing any shadows, no textures, just kind of getting a base color to go off of. Now, some artists prefer to hold the brush way back here, like I am. I actually don't like doing that. I'm just kind of trying to do that so that my hand's not blocking the video. I actually really prefer holding the brush like this, kind of like a pencil. In art school, my teachers did not like that. I don't know why. It's just a preference, really. As long as you get the desired result, you can really hold the brush however you want. But if you see me holding it like this, don't think that you have to hold it like that too. I just prefer holding it this way, so I'm not blocking the view. I've learned that from past videos. If you're trying to learn, I'd rather not block your vision. But otherwise, when I'm just drawing by myself or sketching or practicing, I prefer to hold it like a pencil. The important thing is that you're comfortable. Like, don't think that you have to hold it any particular way. Okay, so that flat wash is done. Also, if you haven't figured it out, the reason they're called flat washes is because it's just a very flat color. You're just trying to block in the color. You're not adding texture or shadow. I know I've said that probably like a million times in past videos. But if this is, your first video that you're watching with me, then that's why I refer to it as a flat wash. Okay, so while all of this is drying, we're going to focus in on the sword now. And the way that we are going to color it is we want to, it's basically a gray color, kind of like steel. So we're going to add a little bit of black. Honestly, you need so little, like this is too much. And then we're going to add some of the blue. See, yeah, it's too much blue. Darn it. Okay, we're going to add a little more black, kind of like mix it in. I don't know why, these two colors are very strong. So it's, just be careful, like you don't need a lot of either one of them, especially since you want a lot of water because you want the white of the paper to come through more, because we're going for kind of like a steel blue. See, like that's too much. We need more water. Let's see. Like that, a little, yeah. Like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and... Now also remember, it comes off a little strong, but it will dry much lighter. So that's fine. We'll go ahead and do that. Okay. Try to avoid the little swirl here, the little pattern. If you get some in there, it's not that big a deal. Okay, we're gonna dry it off, and then I'm gonna pick up a lot of the excess right there. Dry it off. And on this side, I'm gonna pick up a lot of the excess, maybe rinse off my brush a little bit. And dry it off. And same thing, just pick up a lot of the excess. This side is going to be more in shadow. And I want this top part to be even lighter. If you ever look at a sword or a piece of metal, you'll notice that if there's different angles, there's a lot of variability in the light and dark. Okay, so that's fine. So then we are going to color in the little part of the outfit back here. It's kind of like almost like a guard for the upper legs. So we will get a little bit of the green, a little bit of the ultramarine or darker blue. Get a little bit of, yeah, I need more blue. Let's see. Okay. Alright, so that looks good. We're gonna go ahead and cover it in. And this is a darker, it's like a dark blue-green. I'm just gonna do another flat wash. Go around like here. Okay. And then on this side. Like that. Okay, and rinse my brush. So we have a pretty good foundation. That's looking pretty good. Next, we will go ahead and do the skin tone. I'm gonna move that to the side and bring that in. And for the skin tone, I highly suggest, if you don't have the exact same colors that I do, I highly suggest just doing a couple of practice runs on the scrap piece of paper. Really, for skin tones, for lighter skin tones, what you're doing is you're trying to get a certain combination of red and yellow, and maybe a little bit of brown in there. Skin tones can be very tricky starting out. Like I honestly, I think I'm going to make an entire book just on skin tones. Excuse me. Just because there's such a high amount of variability, and honestly, they can all look really good. They don't have to be the same. And that's really something that you should keep in mind as you go through these books. You don't ever feel like yours has to look exactly like mine, and always feel free to put your own spin on it. I think that actually makes things look much more interesting. Okay, so now, let's see. I got it mixed. I'm going to test it out here on the side. That looks like a pretty good skin tone. And keep in mind, it will be lighter when it dries. So, but I think that's pretty good. So we'll go ahead and then color in. Start off with the ears, and feel free to go slowly. No need to rush. No one's chasing you. Or at least I hope so. At least I hope nobody's chasing you. Okay, we'll go ahead and do that. And just slowly go right in, just avoid the eyes. And just go in very slowly. Remember, if you go lighter, more towards the tip of the brush, you can do really nice thin lines like that. So that's kind of what I'm going for here. And even if you get a little bit in the eye, or you know, outside of the lines, no big deal. Okay, we'll go ahead and cover that in like that for the fingers. All right, now rinse our brush. Pretty good so far. And let's see. Now the shoulder piece, the base of the sword, the base and the handle, and the little pouch are all the same color. So we'll go ahead and we'll mix that. It's basically, honestly, it's just yellow ochre. So if you have yellow ochre in your palette, just use that. If you don't, just mix, just use the brown and add some yellow and maybe a little bit of red to it. And if you don't have brown, then just kind of mix, experiment mixing green, red, yellow, and blue. Honestly, just kind of different ratios of those can give you different shades of brown. Or even just the three primaries, red, yellow, and blue. When you mix them together, you can get some browns. It's kind of harder with watercolor. But yeah, we're just gonna grab that, and then we're just gonna go right in, right there, just a flat wash. And go in here, just a flat wash. Okay. And then there. Okay. Hopefully my background music wasn't on repeat. I just changed it. Okay, I'll do that. Okay, I'm gonna go back to this palette. We're gonna grab some of the brown. Now we're gonna add some of the shading on the leather guards on the arms and the legs. So I add a little bit of blue, kind of darken it up. Maybe a bit too much blue there, so I'm just gonna get more brown. And let's see, it's a pretty good shade color. Yeah, I like that. So we'll go ahead and we'll first, there are these straps on the boots, so we're just gonna add brown directly on them. Same right here. And right here. And also right here. And then I'm gonna kind of clear off my brush a little bit. And then add a shade like that. The light is coming in from this way, on this piece. And like that. Just kind of imagining a more harsh shadows as if she's standing outside. Like that. Same right here. Just go in like that. And a little bit. There's almost like a seam on the boots. I'm just kind of adding a little bit of a outline on that. Let's see. And see how quickly that adds depth and dimension to the image. Just adding that little bit of shadow adds so much to the image. Okay. Go in here for the glove, just nice and slow. And a little bit on the, I gotta clear my brush a little bit underneath. Like that. Maybe a little bit show depth on the, maybe try to do it like a smaller, like maybe half of the throwing knife holsters there, and then a little bit right there, right here, and the bottom of the pouch, side right there, a little bit right here, again on the bottom of this one, and outline where the edge of the upper flap, kind of like that, and then the belt right there, and also this arm right here, maybe like where the fingers are, a little bit in the bottom of the arm. And then also the straps themselves need a little more dark. There you go. And also these ones, I forgot these ones on the other arm. Here we go. Okay, looking pretty good. I'm just gonna step back from it for a second just to see it at a distance. Okay, yeah, I think it's looking pretty good so far. And now we'll add some shadow to the cloth, to the outfit itself, the green part of it. So we'll add a little bit of brown in the green, not too much, and then I'm gonna add a little more green. So we're making it more opaque as well as kind of tilting the hue itself. So let's see. Yeah, that's perfect. So we're gonna add this kind of like that. And going up here to show the shadow of the pouches. Go like that. A little bit right there, like that. And there's a little bit of a shadow on the inner thigh, like that, as well as right here from the cloth. Okay, and then a little bit underneath the shoulder armor, and then over here on the inside of the arm, and here on the chest, and then going the side of the body here, here on the seam of the dress, and then a little bit here, and on the inside of the arm, as well as up here underneath the hair. Okay, that looks good. Oh, we're just gonna add a little over here as well because of the strap that's holding the shoulder armor. There we go. And rinse our brush. So now we have to let all of this dry. While it's drying, we'll focus in on the sword. We'll grab a little more of the previously mixed gray, and we're just gonna do one line going down this side of the sword. There we go, perfect. Rinse off our brush, and now we can mix in some shade for the hair. So we have our hair color right here. We'll go ahead and we'll grab a little bit of brown. We don't need a lot. We don't need, well, maybe a little more. Yeah, there we go. A little bit of brown. A little more of the yellow ochre. This is a very light color, so we don't need that much of a dark color to emphasize the shadows. So we'll go ahead and we'll just use that. So here on the side, go right there, like that. A little bit behind the ear, a little bit like this. Maybe I need to clear my brush a little bit. And right there. Like that. Down here. Kind of imagine like lumps of hair and how the shadow would fall on a lump of hair. A little bit like that. Definitely down here, like all of this would be in shadow. I'm just trying to be careful not to mix it in with the parts that are still drying. And down here. And like that. And just some strokes, just to kind of like show the shadows. The shadows themselves have texture on hair. Just because of how the light hits the different strands of hair. So kind of like that, just a little bit. And more shadow towards the body and then less shadow away from the body. Like a little bit here. Maybe just a couple of thin strokes like that. And a little bit right there. Perfect. Okay, yeah, that looks really good. Actually, I'm going to use the darker color because, as mentioned in the previous video, eyebrows are usually a darker color, even for light-haired people. Or elves, I guess, in this case. So we're just gonna go ahead and do a thin line of the shadow color right there. Right there. That's it. We're good there. Okay, so we're pretty good. I'm just doing a double check. So we can use the exact same color too to add shadow for the other parts here, like the pouch and the little shoulder armor, as well as the base of the sword. But it will be too close to the hair color, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix in some of the brown. Just gonna mix in some of the brown with the hair color to get a little different shade. Let's see, so I'm just gonna add that here, like that. As well as over here, like that. This side. This side. Right here. And then the shoulder armor right here, kind of going like that. little bit on the bottom. That's pretty much it. I'll rinse off my brush. And now I'm just going to add, excuse me, now I'm just going to add some shadow on the cloth that's like a guard for the upper legs, almost like a skirt. I'm just going to add a little bit of blue in the green here, mix it up. And this is the green that we used for the shadow, so it's already a darker green. And when we add the blue to the darker green, it'll give us a darker blue-green for the shadow part. We'll do it right there. And this is mostly shadow here on the underneath. We'll add maybe like a little bit of light, like it's coming in from the bottom, like that. And then like that. Okay. And this part is in more shadow, so I'm just going to cover it like that. Okay. I'll rinse my brush. Everything's looking good. I'm going to grab a little bit of the red, kind of mix it in here with a little bit of the brown. I don't want it to be too strong. Maybe a little more brown mixed in. Okay, perfect. I'm just going to go one continuous line starting from the middle, going out. There we go. I'm going to dry off my brush and then pick up the excess. I don't want the red to be too distracting from the rest of the image, but it's there kind of like an anchor point, which helps move the eye of the viewer around, which makes the image more interesting. And next, while this part is drying, I'm just going to mix in some shadow to give a bit of a floor for what she's standing on. And then we'll do that with mixing the gray with the brown. Actually, I'm just gonna grab a little bit of black. Ooh, that is way too much black. Too much black. Okay, so a little bit of brown. Yeah, there we go. That's kind of what we're going for. Let me see how that looks. That's fine, yeah. So basically we're just gonna go from her foot right there and just kind of pull it out, going back. A little bit like that. And then kind of going back and up at a very slight angle. Same with the sword, kind of like from the edge, going back. And what you can do is you could dry off your brush and then just kind of create a little bit of texture, almost like a fading of the shadow. There we go. Okay, so all of that is good. So I think we're done pretty much with the colors in this one. So what we're going to work on next is the outlines. I made this one look a little more cartoony, which I like personally. So I'm just going to grab a bit of the black, kind of work it in here, and work my brush tip to a point so that I can get nice outlines. Maybe move a little bit off of the brush so I can get those nice outlines like that. Perfect. So I'm going to add outlines throughout the image. You don't have to, and you definitely don't have to use the brush. If you have a pen or like an ink pen or something that you want to use to add outlines, you can. You actually don't even have to add any outlines if you don't want to. This image looks perfectly complete by itself. I just wanted to be consistent with what I showed you earlier, which is this one. And you can see that we added a lot of, there's a lot of outlines in this one. Otherwise, they're very similar. It's just that the outlines are missing. So I'm going to put that in here so that we can make them look more consistent. Outlines are a little harder when you're using a brush, but that's okay. So yeah, if you want to use something else, it's totally fine. So yeah, just kind of going slowly. And if the outlines come out a little thicker in some parts, a little thinner in others, it's no big deal. And you don't have to outline all the parts. Keep that in mind. I'm gonna add a little bit. I'm really trying not to block the camera here. And just go a little bit at a time. And if you add more outline on the side that the shadow would be falling on, it also adds a bit of depth to the appearance of the whole image. Now you'll see that my strokes kind of vary from one to the next, and I like doing that because it's more interesting to look at. They're not the same. Like if you do all of this with a pen, it'll look very mechanical, which you totally can do. You don't have to do it how I'm doing it. If you look at comic books, like the old school ones, they used to be inked by hand, and what they used was a brush, actually a very similar brush to this one. Similar size, because when you do inking lines with a brush, it gives you a bigger level of well, both control and also variety, which just makes the image look more interesting. And just careful there with the throwing knives. Bit of a shadow on the bottom. Okay, maybe a little more shadow there. Like that. Like that. And then on the side here. Okay. And just kind of pick and choose. You don't have to do, again, you don't have to outline everything. As you can tell, I'm kind of like skipping some parts, especially the parts that are facing where the light is coming from. I'm gonna go very slowly here in the eyes. I do want to make the eyes, the pupils of the eyes, blacker. And I think that's the only detail in the eyes or in the face that I'm going to outline, just because it's the rest of the features should be pretty soft. I'm just going to add an outline to the face though. Oh, there we go. Hopefully that didn't make it look like a beard. I think we're good there. Okay. And then outline there, there, a little bit there, there. And get a little more black. Okay. And down here. And then the hair. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna step back for a moment. I'm gonna outline this a little bit. Rinse my brush, and I think I'm pretty much done. Let's step back again. Okay, yeah, so I would say that's pretty much done there. You can kind of see how it looks very cartoony, but that's okay. If you want it to look less cartoony, you can always just leave out the outlines. I just really like how they look. It's really a matter of preference. And yeah, as always, you don't even have to follow these. You can just kind of paint them however you'd like. These are just as a baseline, kind of like a suggestion. So don't feel that you have to do everything exactly the same. Oh yeah, also please feel free to tag me, or on social media. I love seeing what people do and how they make them look. Yeah, with that, I will see you next time.